Welcome to the deep dive. We try to cut through the noise and get straight to the core of some pretty complex topics.
That's the goal.
And right now, there's so much buzz, about official UFO programs, recovered materials, all that stuff.
It's definitely in the news.
So we thought it was a perfect time to look back, way back to 1947, actually, the year Kenneth Arnold had his famous flying saucer sighting.
The one that coined the term.
Exactly. But what if his story, which everyone knows, had this, lesser-known, much darker chapter, one that connects directly to today's claims about the government holding alien artifacts?
And that's where we land today. We're doing a deep dive into the Maury Island incident.
Maury Island, okay.
Yeah, this happened just weeks after Arnold's sighting. And it went from just a weird encounter to this tragic, really complicated mess. Involved the Air Force, the FBI.
And alleged alien debris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to really unpack the original sources, see where some of these early claims came from, how shaky those origins were, and maybe what lessons we can learn.
Exactly. About how these stories get built and sometimes completely made up.
Okay, let's get into it. This sounds like a wild one. Maury Island. Where exactly is that again?
It's in Puget Sound, near Tacoma, Washington. Think green, kind of sparsely populated island, waterfront homes, that sort of thing. This is 1947.
Got it. And our main guy is Harold Dahl.
Harold Dahl, right. He's described as a private security boat driver. He's out on his boat doing his patrol rounds along the coast.
Not alone, though.
No, he's got a couple of buddies with him, his son, and even their dog. Seems like a pretty normal day out on the water.
Until it wasn't.
Right. That's when Dahl tells this just extraordinary story. He claims they saw 6 huge, bright, metallic objects. Donut-shaped.
Donut-shaped? Like with a hole in the middle?
Exactly. He said they were about 100 feet across, had portholes, dark circular windows around the hole. Really specific details.
Yeah, that is specific. And he says 5 of them were circling a 6th one. Yep. And that 6th one looked like it was, having engine trouble or something.
Wow. So a very detailed sighting. Does that level of detail, like the donuts and portholes, does that often pop up in hoaxes? Or was this unusual even back then?
That's a really good question. I mean, sometimes fabricated stories do have these super specific, almost like movie-like details. Makes them memorable, right? Good for headlines.
Yeah, catches the eye.
It wasn't necessarily typical for all sightings back then. Some were much vaguer. But looking back, knowing what we know now, it definitely fits the pattern for this story.
Okay, so they see these objects, then what?
Then things get dramatic. Dahl reports hearing this muffled explosion. And the 6th object, the one in trouble, it starts discharging this huge quantity of metallic stuff. He described it as something like lava rock.
Lava rock falling from the sky.
Raining down all around their boat. And this wasn't just weird, it was dangerous. Fragments hit the boat, apparently caused a lot of damage. And tragically, Dahl claimed one piece killed their dog instantly. Another piece hit his son, injured him.
Jeez, killed the dog. That's awful. So actual physical consequences.
That's what he claimed. Then the other 5 objects just flew away.
Okay, so Dahl gets back. Presumably tells someone this insane story.
He tells his boss, a guy named Crisman, and Crisman immediately jumps into the story.
How so?
Well, Crisman apparently goes back to the site with Dahl, and they collect samples of this stuff, this mysterious white metal that fell.
The lava rock stuff.
Yeah, and Crisman adds his own layer. He claims that while he was there, picking through what he guessed was maybe 20 tons of this material.
20 tons? That's a lot.
Right. He claims one of the UFOs came back and just circled the bay while he was there. Makes the story even bigger,
Definitely more sensational. Okay, so now we have Dahl, Crisman, this white metal. How does Kenneth Arnold get pulled into this?
Well, Arnold was famous by then, right? His Mount Rainier sighting was huge news. So Raymond Palmer, the editor of Amazing Stories magazine.
The pulp sci-fi mag.
Exactly. Known for some pretty wild stuff. Palmer hears about Maury Island, smells the story, and wires Arnold $200.
$200 in 1947? That's decent money.
Oh, yeah. Tells him, go investigate, write us an article.
So Arnold heads to Tacoma. What happens then?
His hotel room basically turns into Command Central. He meets with Dahl and Crisman, like Palmer asked.
Okay.
But Arnold also calls in his friend, Captain Emil Smith, another pilot, United Airlines, who'd also reported seeing a UFO. So he brought back up, essentially. Another experienced eye.
Smart move. So the big moment, Crisman shows them the artifacts, right? The white metal.
He does. He shows these fragments to Arnold and Smith.
What did these seasoned pilots think? Were they blown away?
Not exactly. Arnold wrote about it later in his book, The Coming of the Saucers. He said, basically, yeah, it was light, but, quote, no more of than the ordinary aluminum which certain sections of all large military aircraft are made of.
So, airplane scrap.
Pretty much. Arnold went on to say that based on their experience, they, quote, knew or thought they knew that it was a fake because they'd seen, his words, hundreds of piles of this stuff in salvage dumps where surplus army bombers had been junked.
Okay, wow. So right away they're thinking this is just junk metal.
Yeah, their immediate assessment was, this isn't alien, this is common aircraft scrap.
Which raises that big question you mentioned earlier. If they thought it was fake right then, why did Arnold keep going with it? Why call in the military?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Maybe he felt obligated because Palmer paid him. Maybe he wasn't 100% sure, despite his gut feeling. It's unclear, but he did decide to escalate things.
Yeah, and that's a crucial point. Even back then, experienced eyes could spot likely fakes pretty quick. It shows how often these claims rely on stuff that just doesn't hold up to scrutiny.
Absolutely. A pattern we still see.
Yeah.
Extraordinary claims. You know the rest.
Need extraordinary evidence. Okay, so despite his doubts, Arnold decides, let's get the Air Force involved.
Right. Because of his own sighting, he had contacts. He knew 2 Air Force intelligence officers, Lieutenant Frank Brown and Captain William Davidson. They were based down in California, Hamilton Field.
1,000 kilometers away, they came all the way up.
They did, and fast. Jumped in a B-25 bomber, flew straight to McCord Field near Tacoma.
Okay, so the military's officially involved now.
Yep. They interviewed Dahl and Crisman, and importantly, they collected some of this debris themselves to take back for analysis. They were definitely taking it seriously at this stage.
And this is where the story takes that really tragic turn, isn't it?
Yeah. This is where it gets incredibly sad. Early morning, August 1st. Brown and Davidson get back in their B-25 to fly back to California with the samples.
Okay.
Just 18 minutes after takeoff, around 2:30 a.m., the left engine catches fire.
Yeah.
Cabin fills with smoke. A major emergency, middle of the night.
Oh, no.
There were 2 other guys on board, the crew chief, Sergeant Matthews, and an Army guy just hitching a ride. They managed to bail out. Parachutes worked. They were safe.
Thank goodness. But Brown and Davidson...
They weren't so lucky. The wing, the burning wing, actually separated from the plane, and the B-25 crashed near Kelso, Washington. Both Brown and Davidson were killed.
God, that's awful. Just horrific.
It really is, and it instantly changed everything. This wasn't just some weird UFO story anymore. It was a national news tragedy.
Yeah, it completely reframes it. It's rare for these kinds of stories, even hoaxes, to lead to something so devastating. Right?
Extremely rare.
Yeah.
That's why Maury Island stands out. It's this stark example of how even a seemingly small deception, if that's what it was, could spiral into real-world tragedy, unforeseen consequences.
So the crash hits the news that same day. How does Arnold react?
He wants out.
Yeah.
Immediately. Calls Palmer, says, I'm done. I'm not writing this article. Understandable, really.
Totally. But the story doesn't end there, does it? There are those weird phone calls.
Right. Get this. That same evening, a reporter in Tacoma, Ted Merlo, he worked for United Press, and local radio starts getting these anonymous calls.
Anonymous calls about the crash.
Yeah. And the caller claims the plane was shot down.
Shot down. By what?
By a 20-millimeter cannon, supposedly, to stop them from getting the saucer fragments back. Which is weird. American planes didn't usually have 20-millimeter cannons then.
Okay, that is weird.
But here's the kicker. The caller knew the names of the pilots who died, Brown and Davidson.
Before they were released to the public?
Exactly. Their names hadn't been made public yet. So the caller uses this info, seemingly, to prove they have inside knowledge. 5 calls like that to Morello.
Whoa! That is a massive red flag, like you said. Someone knew things they shouldn't have known yet. Did the FBI figure out who it was? Or did they just suspect Crisman?
They strongly suspected Crisman. They couldn't prove it definitively, no recording or anything. But given everything else, the fact Crisman had met Brown and Davidson, knew their names, he was the most logical source. No one else really fit.
Makes sense. Okay, so the calls are happening, Arnold's out. What about the last bit of promised evidence? The boat and the photos.
Ah, yes. Crisman still had that card to play. He'd promised to show Arnold and Smith the patrol boat, the one supposedly damaged by falling debris. And these photos Dahl allegedly took of the UFOs.
The final proof, supposedly.
Right. So what happens? First, the photos. Crisman suddenly can't find them. Said something like, oh, I must have left them up at my mountain cabin.
Convenient.
Very.
Yeah.
Then, the boat. They go down to the docks, but the boat they're shown is a small gray fishing boat. Arnold said it was completely unlike the patrol boat Crisman had described.
Not the right boat. Any damage?
A few small patches on the surface, apparently. But Arnold said nothing like the dog-killing destruction given in the story.
Nothing major. Could they at least take it out, look closer?
Nope. Surprise, surprise. Crisman says his mechanic is having engine trouble. Can't start it.
Let me guess. Arnold and Smith didn't buy that either.
Not for a second. Remember that they're pilots. They know engines. Arnold wrote, the engine did not look like a bolt or a screw had been turned on it. He basically said it looked untouched, the excuse seemed totally fishy, and frankly, the boat looked so run down he wouldn't even take it 100 yards out to sea.
So complete skepticism from the experts on the scene.
Totally. At this point, Arnold and Smith were convinced. As Arnold put it, everything about Dahl and Crisman's story was either unevidenced or supported by apparently fabricated evidence.
The whole thing was falling apart.
Pretty much, yeah. The narrative had clearly shifted in their minds from maybe strange to definitely a hoax.
And because 2 Air Force officers died, the FBI gets involved officially.
Correct. Which is great for us because those FBI files are now public. You can find them on the FBI Vault website in the UFO section. Gives us a direct look at the official investigation.
What did the FBI find? Anything explosive?
Pretty revealing stuff. For instance, one agent's interview with Dahl got cut short when Dahl's wife apparently stormed in, furious.
Really? What did she say?
According to the agent's report, she demanded Dahl admit the entire story was a plain fantasy which he had dreamed up. The agent even wrote in his notes he thought Dahl was potentially a mental case.
Wow.
From his own wife. Yeah. And the FBI dug into their backgrounds. Found out neither Dahl nor Crisman actually worked for any company that patrolled Maury Island.
So the security boat driver thing was...
likely made up. Their real job, according to the FBI. They had an old beat-up boat or two, and they salvaged floating lumber from the Sound. That was their actual business.
Okay, so salvaging logs, not chasing UFOs.
Seems that way. And the FBI report also backs up the suspicion about the anonymous calls. They state that while they don't have proof, the caller was probably most likely Fred Crisman, since he knew the pilots' names.
So the FBI conclusion, and it sounds like most researchers agree, is that Crisman was the main driver behind this whole thing.
Yeah, he seems to be the primary creator and driver, as you say. And the motive, likely trying to sell the story for profit to Ziff Davis, the publisher of Amazing Stories. Cash and fame.
And you mentioned Crisman had a history with that magazine.
He did. He'd already sent letters to Palmer at Amazing Stories before. Letters describing these completely wild adventures after being shot down in Burma during the war.
What kind of adventures?
Get this. Battling strange, invisible creatures in a cave with submachine guns.
Invisible creatures? Seriously?
Seriously. That's what he wrote. And later in life, this wasn't his only brush with the fringe. He hosted a late-night conspiracy radio show.
Of course he did.
And he made enough noise about supposed connections to the JFK assassination that he actually got subpoenaed during the Clay Shaw trial in New Orleans.
Wow, so battling invisible creatures, JFK conspiracies, this Maury Island thing wasn't exactly out of character for him then.
Not at all. It really paints a picture, doesn't it? Someone who seemed to thrive on making sensational, unverified claims, almost built a persona around it.
Exactly. It shows a pattern, a clear motivation for attention, maybe money, through these incredible stories.
And remember how Arnold got involved in the first place?
Crisman suggested it to Palmer, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was Crisman's idea to bring in Kenneth Arnold. Why? For his celebrity name and the, quote, tremendous publicity value it would bring. Arnold wasn't just an investigator. He was part of the plan to legitimize the story.
Using Arnold's fame to sell the hoax. Pretty cynical.
Very. So who better to give us the final verdict than Edward J. Ruppelt, head of the Air Force's Project Blue Book.
The official UFO investigation project back then, what did Ruppelt say?
In his 1956 book, The Report on Unidentified Flying Objects, he didn't mince words. He called Maury Island, quote, the first, possibly the second best, and the dirtiest hoax in the UFO history.
The dirtiest hoax. Strong words from the head of Blue Book.
Very strong. And Ruppelt added a crucial detail that wasn't widely known at the time.
What was that?
He revealed that when Brown and Davidson got back to McCord Field before their fatal flight, they met with the base intelligence officer. And they told that officer that they had quickly determined the entire thing was a hoax.
They knew it was a hoax before they took off.
According to Ruppelt, yes, they had already figured it out, which makes their deaths even more pointless and tragic.
Unbelievable. So if the Air Force knew it was a hoax, why weren't Dahl and Crisman prosecuted? Especially after 2 officers died.
Ruppelt addressed that too. He said the government got very close to prosecuting them.
But they didn't. Why not?
Ultimately, the conclusion was that, legally, all Dahl and Crisman had done was try to pull a fast one on a magazine publisher. It wasn't technically their fault that Arnold had called in the Air Force or that the plane subsequently crashed due to mechanical failure.
So no direct causal link in the eyes of the law.
Right. Which leaves us with that lingering question. Does the intent behind a hoax matter if the consequences become so severe, so tragic, even if unforeseen?
That's a heavy question. What a story. We went from alleged alien rocks to a fatal plane crash, ending with this meticulously documented hoax.
Driven by what? Money? Fame?
Seems like a mix of both. Such a foundational story for ufology, and yeah, it echoes a lot of the discussions we still have today about evidence, claims, and cover-ups. And the bottom line for this incident anyway is still no confirmed alien artifacts.
Still 0 alien artifacts recovered or tested from Maury Island. Maybe someday we'll get verifiable proof of extraterrestrial technology, who knows?
Yeah.
But history, especially stories like this one, suggests it's probably not going to come wrapped in a sensational tale from the fringes.
Yeah, it really underscores the need for critical thinking, doesn't it? When you hear these new claims about recovered debris or government secrets, you have to remember there's this long history. Sometimes it's just fabricated.
It's a powerful reminder to always question the source, demand evidence, and be wary of narratives that seem too perfectly sensational.
Absolutely. So, thinking about how this detailed hoax unraveled back in '47, how does that shape your view of the reports we hear now about recovered non-human tech? What's the biggest lesson you take away from this deep dive into the murky beginnings of flying saucer mythology?